guys, I'm Brittany,
I'm Maria.
and welcome to a super sleepy episode of the Be More podcast.
Yeah, I'm so tired. Also, Brittany, right before this was like, "How do I do this?" It's like we're over 100 episodes. Hit record.
My brain, it's so funny because you know that the second we start getting into this topic, then the both of us are going to get real heated and real awake.
Yeah, but
But
right
my
now,
brain, so I'm in the midst of working on the production of three different shows right now,
mm, yeah, that'll
and
do it.
I've been in rehearsals Monday through Saturdays and like teaching all day and then being in rehearsals until 7 and then it's funny because I don't have any active brain cells, I feel like, but I've s-
Yeah.
I've fallen into the very easy programming of being hyper planny Brittany, who's like, okay,
Oh,
and
yeah,
this and
yeah,
this and this and this, like that
yeah.
is an automatic setting in my brain. So I'm running on autopilot in that very the part of me that I just love so much that's just like, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Okay,
So
yeah,
this conversation, I think it'll be a nice tap into like emotional me,
yeah. As opposed
maybe.
to just like, yeah, practical. Let's just get through this. Yeah, I'm in the
Yeah,
same boat. I mean, it's busy season, so it's just like
doing stuff.
after this, I have to finish the work that forgot to finish yesterday because I was just too tired yesterday. I just have no sleep.
Yeah, I just said to, I'm usually the person that's on top of all of our taxes, and I just said to Dan, oh shit, when do our taxes have to be done by? Because I've done nothing.
April 15th.
Done. Okay, I
Everyone,
got time.
April
I got
15th.
time, friends. I usually am
I
the person
also
who's
have time.
so ahead of the deadline that I don't pay attention to when the deadline is, but
Yeah,
that's
I
not
get that.
how things are working now. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, I've got I don't have the emotional capacity or the mental capacity to make a decent segue right now. So,
Yeah.
Maria and I have been wanting to talk for the past couple weeks about a movie that came out in 2012, which I didn't realize came out that long ago, and I wanted to see when it came out, and it's just been a
hmm
while. Um, okay, you can start. I'm gonna eat.
Oh, what am I saying? Okay, well, anyway, so Brittany mentioned a couple episodes ago. I can't believe you just put this on me. That she watched Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino, the director, and she mentioned that I should watch it that we talked about it. So I watched it last week. It's like a 3 hour film. It's so fucking long. Um, and the main character is an African American slave that gets bought out by a German doctor per se. He says he's a doctor. I'm sure he was, but then turned into a bounty hunter and then basically and it's Jamie Foxx, right? Is that
Mhm.
the actor I'm thinking of right
I'm
now?
coming in chewing real hard right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Jamie Foxx he plays the lead man who's enslaved. Um, what would you say the last time the other guy was?
Christoph Waltz,
Hmm.
that guy. Yeah. And like Leo DiCaprio's in this movie. Like we have heavy hitters here.
And
And
Kerry
Kerry Washington.
Washington.
Yes.
So listening to an interview with Kerry Washington was actually what sparked me like coming
Oh.
back to remembering this movie
Mm.
because she talked about her role. And I
hmm
don't think I ever read whether it was that I didn't realize or I didn't remember the fact that she was in it. And I remember seeing the previews for this movie because we were teenagers, and thinking to myself how interested I was in seeing it.
hmm That's an interesting concept
And
for sure.
especially,
Especially from Quentin Tarantino.
but especially in 2012.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
it's pre Black Lives Matter, right? Like
hmm
it's into the extent that it has become, right? It's pre our nation actually dealing with the issue, right? Or
hmm
pre our nation having to outright actually address the issue. Um, so
hmm
I remember that just like during the time
That came
that
out.
the movie, yeah, like during like the way the social climate was very, I don't want to say neutral. I want to say
It was more progressive,
it
was it?
was, I don't think
Or
it
when
was,
what
well, no, no, I'm
what
thinking, so it's,
timing what timing
I'm thinking
did
about
Trump come in?
2012,
I know.
not until,
What
I thought it was
what
2016.
I honestly can't remember. No, you're right.
That was
You're right because we did
2016.
vote for Obama. No, we voted for Obama when we graduated high school, which was
Yeah.
11. So Obama was in the
So I think,
presidency.
so that climate, right? Think about the social climate of that time. We have the first black president, and, or the first person of color president, and things are starting to like seem like they can be more progressive, but we're not actually. That was the time when everybody was like, "Oh no, we're not racist. We have a black president." Like that was the social, right? The social climate of the time, right? It was very much we have a
Mm,
band-aid. We're not actually looking at the wound and it's festering underneath.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that that movie coming out was it was a potentially a really good time to start talking about the issue. But imagine
Yeah.
if that movie came out now when everyone's really actually taking a deeper look at the issues and the time. And the reason why I feel that is because going back to the plot of the story is that the story takes place 2 years before the Civil War breaks out.
Mm. Okay. Yeah,
And
I forgot about that tidbit.
the unrest of society about the role of the black man
Mm-hmm.
is like palpable.
Yeah, at that time, yeah, for sure.
And the fear of the black man and the like, and the movie does a really good job of this, the fear of the fear that the black man has about all of the fear coming up around them and how much more tension and how much more hatred and fear is behind the eyes that are looking at them constantly is all really prevalent from the very beginning of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie Foxx does such a good job in the I one of my favorite things about the movie is the character development of Django
Mm.
and watching him go from that the black man who has been silenced, right? Has to be extremely calculated in what he's doing, has to be a muted version of himself to
Mm-hmm.
becoming the guy that he is at the end when he rides away on the horse and he makes the horse do the little dance and everything when he's back with
Yeah.
Kerry Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing those moments of him coming back into himself, I think that especially because Black stories and Black voices are now rightly so being put at a forefront in the industry when it comes to movies and film and cinema. That movie back in 2012 was one of the first movies that did all of the work that we talk about is important now. This is making sense.
Yeah, no, it's giving a voice that wasn't on the forefront yet at that time. Like
Yeah,
here's a film. But also there's some controversy around it, which I like we'll talk about, but like I also feel like it was a step in a direction
right.
that we
Closer.
needed at that time.
Right. And if we would have been, and when I say we, I mean culturally, if we would have been paying attention more,
Mm-hmm.
that could have been the point where we started having conversations about this, you know? Like, and then we could have been progressing so much more. Like, we didn't have to. I was thinking about this the other day too. What did I watch a commercial for? I watched a commercial for something like a super generic product, like a product that we've
Mm-hmm.
seen commercials for our whole life. And the woman who was in the commercial was a black woman. And
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the commercial and went, wow, this is the first time I've ever seen a black woman in this commercial. And
Yeah, yeah.
like those are things that and those are things that
Like the
people
little
who are
things.
paying attention are should be
Yeah.
really aware of, right? That there are more people
Mm-hmm.
of color in a lot of commercials for things. Um, but we've talked about all of that now. Like that's happening now in 2023. Like really maybe around 2020 it started, but it could have potentially started 10 years
Sooner.
ago. Like this movie was ahead of its time because it was doing that 10 years ago. And I thought it was done so well. And I could kick myself for not seeing it then, but I don't think that I could have appreciated it the way that I appreciated watching it, because now with all of the things that have happened in our country and the way our society is changing, we're all seeing these things, you know, and we're talking about them more openly, and we can observe them and analyze them, having better context to be able to see their importance.
So you like the movie?
I did.
Like it like so it
Uh,
was I'm not knocking anything. Like I'm just playing devil's advocate here and also just putting in my two
I
cents.
can tell you why I didn't like the movie.
Go
I want to
ahead,
hear why
yeah.
you didn't like the movie first.
It was there's a lot of N-words happening in that movie from non-black
I
people.
mean, but I totally get that.
I
But I
get
think
that. I get
it
for the time and also the violence and everything. It was just like it was uncomfortable because it was meant to be uncomfortable, right? Like
because the
duh.
fucking reality of that was immensely uncomfortable.
Correct. Yes, I agree. But the one thing that made me that when I thought about it and processed it, I was like, why is Quentin Tarantino directing a film about African American slavery when he's not black? That's what made me uncomfortable the whole time.
Sorry, I'm chewing.
It's
Yes,
okay. She's
keep
chewing.
going.
Um, no, it's just like that's what that's whenever it, with any BIPOC story. Oh, again, I don't know who the writers were, so I don't know if the writers were black. We
Mm.
could that's an easy Google search right now, actually, because I have Wikipedia up on the other side. But him directing it, who else produced this? Whatever. But him directing it,
It
it's
was
the same.
written by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, lovely. So
Mm.
him directing and writing it, as opposed to a black person giving their voice and opinion on that time and their generational trauma, would have been much more impactful and more okay, this came from a black voice, as opposed to Quentin Tarantino being Quentin Tarantino and making Pulp Fiction out of it, basically.
You are, I 100% agree with you.
You know? Yeah, that's how I feel.
I, it wouldn't have been the same movie. And that's actually, you know what? Like, okay, so I don't, what genre of movie does it even fall under?
Good question. Well, per Wikipedia, 2012 American revisionist Western. What the fuck is a
What does
revisionist
that mean?
Western film? I have no idea.
Clicking on that. Revisionist Western, anti-Western genre. Also got anti-Western is a subgenre of a Western film. It's designated a plot, a post-classical variation of traditional Western and realism to present a less simplistic view of the Old West. I mean, totally that I can see that, right?
It's a Western, yeah.
It's an old Western. Especially because so if you talk about true Western, I hate that I know this as well as I know this, but so my father, Westerns are his freaking thing. Like that's what he watches on like me TV, freaking Westerns. Like I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. I literally hear all the theme songs in my brain, which is so bad. But he watches all of those Westerns, and the plot is always the same. Like the
Mm.
Western plot line is always the same. It's either the sheriff or the white man in charge of the town, like the rifleman, and I really can't think of any other ones. But or it's like a family in the Midwest somewhere. Like it's all very like,
Yeah.
and there's very minimal. Actually, I remember an episode of one of them where there was there's the people of color are always the enemy. Like issues with
Mm.
the Native American peoples, issues. There's very little. I don't think I ever saw anything about slaves in any of it, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yeah.
But this, just for that fact alone,
Hmm.
this movie falls into whatever category they said it was with that.
Revisionist Western.
revisionist Western, because I've never seen, I'm trying to think back. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a movie that brought any Black story into a Western.
Hmm.
Can you think of any? I can't think of any.
I'm like not familiar, but like I just generally stereotypically, I just know it's like a white sheriff just saving his
Right,
town.
like it's a very white.
It's very
And
white centric.
I
Centric.
think I so just in that it changes things.
Yeah, it changes the
Um
genre for sure.
and
Yeah.
I've never seen it's interesting. I feel like whenever we talk about America during this time, it's
Hmm.
either like the people in the West or the people in like the people who are
Deep South.
cowboys. But like it's cowboy country, it's farmer country, it's city country, right? Like they're all separate. And
Hmm.
this movie merged together like the cowboy country and the farmer industry, which like you can't ignore slavery if you're talking about farming during that time, like going to Candyland and all that stuff. Um,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The whole Candyland situation. Oh my God.
so I mean, I totally agree.
Mm.
I see two sides to this. I see at that time, was there going to be, was any other audience going to be willing to sit through something that was extremely critical of our
Mm.
white supremacist
History.
society, yeah, and history of that time? No. Were people probably pissed the hell out of this by watching this movie, like expecting something from Quentin Tarantino and then watching this movie and being like, well, like, were white people probably mad seeing it? Yeah, rightly so. Like, if they were mad, like, that was the point. And I don't think if anybody else would have written it, that it would have landed. You know what I mean? Like for the
Well,
way that
yeah.
it was, there was a there was a satirical aspect of it.
Well, I was gonna say Tarantino's movies, if you've seen many of his movies, are they all gory? Yeah, I think they are. So that's always something that like I just know that's gonna happen is that I'm gonna
Yeah.
be uncomfortable because there's like a lot of blood.
Yeah.
But his storytelling is very satirical. Like there's obviously commentary about society in all of his movies.
Right.
So like one instance that I can remember is like I think it's like basically like the KKK. Like the hooded like it was like Jonah Hill was in it for like a
Yep.
hot second. Like
Yep.
that whole scene like it was like white men trying to rally and find
That
Django
part
and
was
like
so
that
fun.
part
I
was
can't fucking stand this thing. That
yeah like
part
it was
was
just like
so funny.
well, if you wanted a hood, you would have made it. My wife made 300, whatever, whatever that
And
one line was. I was like, oh my God.
those are the moments that I feel like probably piss white people off. And that's the thing that I feel like good. Like,
Yeah, so I mean, like, I mean, Tarantino's movies are always so thought-provoking and
I really,
controversial in a way. Like, he always has some controversy within his movies, besides, like, did Pulp
I
Fiction have, like,
enjoyed that.
controversy? Like,
Yeah.
like,
I
I'm sure,
enjoyed the
right?
fact that he was a white person and the white people weren't the heroes.
Yeah, I mean, that's
That's
for
the
sure,
standpoint that I enjoyed. If anything, the white people were the bad guys. And
which is good
and that's the
because in
truth of our history, right? In
correct.
that and
Mm-hmm.
I did think that it was interesting that the doctor, he's a dentist, right? Or no,
The
he's a con artist as a dentist, or he
yes,
cons
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
as a dentist so that he can bounty hunt.
Yes, yes.
Um, I liked the fact that there was, and I think this was done well too. I liked the fact that there was, he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, he was a supporting character to Jamie Foxx's character of Django being the hero, right? Like
Yeah.
he was, because the truth of the situation back then was that people of color and slaves in those situations needed allies. And there were allies. There were people like that doctor who were creating enough of an uproar to lead to the Civil War, who were making the backdoor deals and trying to bring justice of some sort, of any sort, in a place that
Right.
felt like there was none. Like with the whole moment where he first brings Django into the new town with the where he's sitting in the bar and he just
Yeah.
treats him like a person, and he talks about how he's like, I don't understand
Your people
why
in
this is how,
America. Yeah.
right, he's like, I don't understand. Yeah, and I like that he was like so German, right, that he was like, I don't understand any of this and I don't agree with any of it, but like, I'm here's how you're gonna help me and we're both gonna get through this.
Right. It's plain and simple. Nothing like you owe or I owe you or you owe me whatever because I
Right,
bought
like
your
just
freedom or whatever. Yeah.
like you're a human being and I'm a human being and you
Let's
can
just get
help
this
me
shit
in the
done.
situation I'm in. Yeah. And this will help you get on the next path that you need to get to freedom. And I respected the fact that I first respected the fact that he was like he was the necessary gatekeeper in a way,
Mm.
right? For Django to be able to become free.
Yeah.
Because in that situation there was no way that was happening without him. Because if he was to just run away on his own, he would get killed. Um,
Right.
but I also liked the fact that, and it's funny because I could see myself in this situation. If I was a person in that time, in my current mindset, I could see myself being in this situation. I appreciated the fact that he played the game until he didn't have to play the game anymore. He played the game of being like, okay, like I have to be okay with slavery and I have to be somebody who would own slaves and I have to be somebody who would look
Mm.
down on somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's not white, until
Mm-hmm.
he got to the last moment and he turns around and he had to go shake his hand to apologize to the friggin'
Yeah.
white man about
Yeah.
what is that? It was a pride related thing about lying to him, right? About lying to
Yeah.
him and all that bull crap.
Leo DiCaprio was just too proud in the movie, basically. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
he was unhappy with the fact that he was lied to about the whole situation and that he tried to
Yeah.
get one over on him. And if I remember correctly in that scene, he wanted him to agree to the fact that Leo was
Mm-hmm.
right about
Yeah,
everything,
basically.
right
It was
about being a slave owner, right about the way that he
yeah.
fought like black
Mm-hmm.
men to death. And that character just he was like he literally turned to Jamie Foxx's character and he was like, all right, I'm sorry, like I can't go on anymore, like you're gonna have to fight your way out of this because I give up, fuck
Yeah.
this guy, I need to kill him.
Yeah. It was whoops.
Like I part of me respected that, part of me kind of felt like that was kind of selfish and he should have followed out, getting
Mm-hmm.
him out and getting him to safety. And like that starts a whole nother narrative on like what it really means to be an ally. But I thought I kind of liked that they killed him off because then it made space for Django to really be like, all right, now you have to be the hero on your own, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, Django is the hero like from the start to the end, but there's also like Christoph Waltz's like character that's just like the crutch in his like narrative. It's like,
Right.
all right, as long as like the white guy's with me,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll be all right. Like he can vouch for me. But now that he's
Mm-hmm.
gone, it's like shit. Like I'm a black man alone now. Like how do I you know, make this work for me? Who's also free, but also that doesn't mean anything even if you are free.
Right. Especially during that time, it meant nothing.
Yeah.
How did you feel about um Samuel Jackson's character?
Oh, the house butler.
Yeah.
I it's hard. I mean, I get I get the frustration from him, um, like the house butler's character, because it's like I'm serving this black guy. Like how is he not? I like with any like not all of the black people in the movie were mad that Django was free, but it just seems so weird to them, and so and like a lot of jealousy was like towards Django's like position. And then when Samuel L. Jackson's like character figured out that Kerry Washington like knew Django and Jamie Foxx, whatever, like he just went ape shit crazy. He was like, there's some plot like against us to deal with this. And like all of their like emotions are all valid because it's such a shitty society to live in that you are put against each other for the bit of freedom, that
So
you know.
I have questions for you. So I want to go back through this because I think I interpreted it differently than you did.
Sure.
You're saying that the issue that the house butler, Samuel Jackson's character, had with Django was in a sense of a jealousy of like fuck this free black guy. Like, I'm a black guy too. Why do I have to serve this guy?
That, and also yes, and also the fact that he also has some pride in his servitude to Leo DiCaprio's family. So he's like, I'm fine where I am, but y'all are fucking up this family dynamic that we have right here, and I'm not trying to have this shit. And also is probably jealous of like his freedom, probably.
So I kind of saw it, and I could totally see that. And there are moments in my
Hmm.
head that I'm thinking of that make sense to me of this. I saw it as he truly felt that he was better than him. Like that he
Oh
and
yeah.
Django were not the same breed of black man.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I agree
And
that
that
with
he
that
had
too.
some like because he was associated with Candy and had spent like I mean and they talked about how like he was with Candy's dad beforehand, right? Like he really
Yeah.
grew up in that
Hmm.
place. He grew up or he lived his life with a certain amount of
He has a little bit more
like
freedom than
class,
like,
right?
yeah,
Like
class and freedom.
a certain amount of access, a certain amount
Hmm.
of freedoms with that access. And part of that access was to wealth and comfort, right? As long as he did
Yeah, he was
his
a house
job
slave.
and he got to have relationships with these white people
Yeah.
that all the other people on the see the word plantation didn't get,
Yeah.
right? And then he was like, well, this white guy is rude, or sorry, this other black guy is rude to you. You don't know anything about him. He just got here and now I have to serve this asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that. And then he tried to, out of that jealousy and out of that sense of lacking sameness,
Hmm. Hmm.
he went through all the things that he went through and literally trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he didn't want Django near anyone.
it brought in this really interesting dialogue.
Hmm.
And I think this is true across all races that even in sameness, we find difference.
Oh, it's 100%. Because like skin color is one thing, race is one thing, right? But then
Class
if you
is
look,
another.
classism is another, and
Right,
not even just classism, but also like colorism is another thing too. So it's
right.
like, I get it, like, because you see like poor, like I'm Asian, obviously, poor Asians versus like the affluent Asians, and like we all are put in as the Asian bucket, but like within that, like we're all just struggling, we're all just like
And that
within each
becomes
other. Yeah,
it's
becomes like a
the
like a war.
funny, yeah, the funny like dualism of like
Hmm.
from the perspective of the house butler, I have adjusted myself to fit in, but I still
Hmm.
don't fit in enough here,
Correct.
right? On the one end
Yeah,
of like related to the white people. And
correct.
then the other aspect of it is like, well, you and I are not the same, right? Like
Hmm.
we're both black men, but we're not the same and we don't come from the same. So our experience shouldn't be the same. But I
Hmm.
also need to make sure that I fit, like I need to be better than you and keep striving to be as good as them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's this weird
Yeah.
hierarchy that happens within two pools at the same time.
Hmm.
And I think that just like you said, we have this there's so many factors that come up like influence our identity and the way we see ourselves and the way others see us. And the house butler, Samuel L. Jackson's character, was so sure on the way that he saw himself that he was one of them, right? Like
Hmm.
he was a black man, but he was a white person, right? He
Yeah.
was white, but he was black. And
Hmm.
when Django came, it disrupted all of that.
Yeah, and he just could not function. He was like, "Are you
Yeah, and he
kidding
couldn't
me?"
handle it.
Yeah.
I thought that dynamic was really very interesting.
Yeah, and
Like
it's a
that was
good.
the most he was the most interesting character in the
I
story to me.
I agree. That whole relationship was. I mean, you see it day in and day out. Just like in modern times too. It's like if someone of the same race as you is, and it could be just white people too. Same thing. Like if someone's more affluent than you, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Like how did they, you know, like you're just gonna have some second
Yeah,
thoughts
or
about
you
your
see
sureness of yourself.
you work so hard to
Yeah.
find the way that you fit in to pass, right? In whatever
Mm-hmm.
shape of the form, like pass
Yeah.
so that there's not friction between you and something else. And then another person comes in and it just like it's so easy for
It just
them. And you're
overshadows
like,
you and you're just
fuck
like,
you.
I
Yeah.
exactly. You just get mad and that's just
Yeah.
like,
I mean, there's enough of that. I mean, taking out all of these things about all of these isms, like this is stuff that siblings deal with, right? Like
mm-hmm,
it's a very complicated. I
mm-hmm,
mean, I don't know. I would have liked to spend more time in the like Django was even trying to figure out like what the fuck is up with you, right? Like I would
mm-hmm.
have liked to spend more time in the unraveling
Of
of
that.
the case. Because I mean, even at the end of the movie, right before, like mass bloodshed happens and all everything goes down, like Samuel L. Jackson talks to Jamie Foxx's character and says like you're worthless, like you're
Yeah.
garbage, and it's such an interesting dynamic. And in the
You
midst of all of that, it gets real Quentin Tarantino when he just like blows people literally
yeah.
away. Like there are parts of that
Signature.
moment that are just yeah ridiculous.
Signature Quentin Tarantino. No, I mean anger gets to the best of us, honestly. I think that's just the butler's whole ordeal.
And I think that I think his whole character demise just goes to show that pride and anger are, I mean, and that's this, it's this pride and anger are what kill his character, Samuel Jackson's character. Pride and anger are what kills Candy. Pride and anger is
Mm-hmm.
what kills the bounty hunter who's helping him out.
Yeah.
Like pride and anger is what kill all of them. And you see and Quentin Tarantino does a very specific job of this, maybe for this reason. All of the moments when Django has to struggle with, do I give in to my instinct to kill all of these people out of pride and anger? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
and that's where you get a distinct difference between all of these free people, like quote unquote free people, even though Samuel L. Jackson is exactly a free person. Um, all of these people who have it's a privilege to be able to just instinctively react with pride and anger and not have to calculate, am I going to live or die in this moment, right? Like to
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
to,
Mm-hmm.
and the celebration at the end that they have when they trail off is the fact that they don't have to do that any longer.
Yeah, that's it. Now that everyone's gone, it's just like, all right, we can start anew now.
Right.
And
I
like
don't
that's
like
it.
we have our free papers. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about I mean, I wish it was that simple, but that's not the
I
case. But
know.
in that
Yeah.
moment, we don't have to worry about, I don't have to calculate what I have to do next. I don't have to worry about the
Mm-hmm.
the moment of pause. Like we've killed our demons for now.
Exactly. And like that's all that matters right now. Um, I had a thought and then it left my brain as you're talking. So I'm
Sorry.
just gonna pass on whatever I was gonna say.
Can't think of any other major. I mean, there are tons of moments. That movie is long, and there are lots of good moments that are disturbing and satisfying.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it's a typical Tarantino movie. I've watched it enough where I'm just like, yeah,
so okay, so let's bring this into the now, right? So
sure.
because I want to talk about this stuff that I
Hmm.
got. Um, so I truly believe that if this movie was to resurface and come back into theaters, it would implode like us as a, like I feel like people would the responses that people had would be so strong in whatever direction they were in. Um, because we are
Hmm.
the white person's ability to nonchalantly ignore the true history of our country is the space for that is smaller and smaller. And I
I
think
would
this
hope. I would hope.
I I believe it because there's people who are people are responding to it more. I
Okay,
think
yeah.
the reason why we're in the climate of things that we're in the climate of is because people are having to face it and they're responding to it more. Whether it's in anger of the fact that they've had to see it and they want to ignore it and they believe that everything was fine, or
Yeah.
whether they're like, this is not acceptable and we have to do something about it in a progressive way. We have no control over that, but I feel like the shit has been stirred at the bottom of the pot, and that's why we're seeing more of the crap that we're seeing.
Makes sense. Yeah. No, I agree. Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so this brings us to um and let's be real, I would not have gotten this package in 2012. I got two of these sent to my parents' house, these bright yellow folders.
Yeah.
And on the front of it, it looks like this.
Yeah. It says
Join
if
us
you're yeah.
today. Go ahead, read
Yeah,
it.
it says join us today and help defend our democracy. Sign and return the enclosed petitions. Exclamation point.
And on the top it says 2023 Citizens Petition enclosed. And I was like, what? Not only, so like, again, not only did I get one of them, I got two of them. And this is what the envelope looks like. And I was like, we all get junk mail these days. So we were about to open it, like, what is this Southern Poverty Law Center? I've never heard of this before. And
Mm-hmm.
a true disclaimer to everybody, it was not until like I got on this podcast with Maria and was like, we should probably look at what this is because I got this. I don't know what's going on. So inside of this envelope came a whole slew of things. But the biggest thing that stood out to me is the actual petitions.
Okay.
So I'm going to read them. Okay. So
Sure.
there are 3 different petitions, and they are their citizens' petitions declaring white supremacy an urgent national crisis in for New Jersey.
Oh, it's specifically for New Jersey.
So these petitions are intended to be delivered to the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer,
Mm-hmm.
and President Obama.
Oh, okay.
And they all say the same thing. So I'm going to read them and I want you to tell me your thoughts.
Sure.
So again, the top of them says Citizens Petition declaring white supremacy an urgent national crisis. Whereas the January 2021 assault on the United States Capitol was an organized insurrection planned by white nationalists and other far-right extremist organizations. Whereas the FBI director has told Congress that racially motivated extremists, mostly white supremacists, now make up the deadliest and most common threat of domestic terrorism. Whereas the Southern Poverty Law Center is tracking more than 700 white supremacists and other hate groups. Whereas these white nationalists and related hate groups are actively planning additional violent attacks. Therefore, I call upon you to formally declare that the threat of white supremacists and related hate groups pose an urgent national crisis, and that you mobilize full power of federal government to confront that crisis.
That's legit. Like, that's, I mean, I would sign that in a heartbeat. I'm not gonna lie.
So, and now on the bottom of it, on the bottom of it, there's stuff about making donations and
Yeah,
like,
of course.
so
They're a
which
501c3 nonprofit. Like,
yeah,
we looked them
like
up. Yeah,
not so I'm not surprised by all of that. So that's one of the things that comes in this. The other one, another long paper,
yeah.
double-sided paper that comes in it. Oh God, wait, are these multiple pages? Okay, yeah. Oh, there's 2 of them. They go together. There is like an envelope to send stuff back, but there's I mean, I don't have to read all of this. Actually, you don't even have to donate. You can just send these back. But
Mm-hmm.
the top of this is literally says racial terror and voter suppression are 2 pillars of white supremacy. One thing is certain, the overt racism we fought during the civil rights era has evolved along with our movement's progress, and talks about things from Klans to the Jim Crow laws through the things that we're seeing in our struggle with white supremacy in our democracy today, and really starts calling out what the group is doing to address it.
All right, cool.
Which is great. But the thing that there was this adorable sticker that I got too of
Oh, cool.
that I can't wait to stick on my car.
Yeah, it says
But here's the
fight
thing.
hate
Sorry
for
for people
people.
who are not. It says fight hate on it. Um, the thing that alarmed me that they also sent out that I didn't know was I mean, I am grateful in a way that I had no idea
Uh-huh.
because it means that we live in an area where it's not
Prevalent.
prevalent, which is a good thing, but the amount of prevalence that there is makes me
Mm-hmm.
very scared and makes me like want to learn more about this group
Yeah.
and this nonprofit and what they do. So this is the little map they gave us.
It looks like the map of the US. It says
It's a map of the
active,
US.
sorry, it says active anti-government and hate groups, and it's all plotted out. I can't
I know
see,
it's hard
but
because it's like very. Oh
yeah.
wait, let me put it.
Yeah, put it
There.
behind or put it in front of something. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh shit. Okay, so there's a lot of dots on the coast, the east coast, and then the west, basically. And on the
There's a lot
side,
of dots
yeah,
everywhere.
everywhere. But more so the eastern side of
That's
the
surprising
country.
that the eastern side of the country, like a lot, also in places where like you wouldn't think if you think back to where the civil rights or the Civil War was and the way that we did the Civil War, like there are places where
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't expect to see this.
And
Um,
again, it was anti-government and hate groups, right?
yeah, so I'm gonna read
Yeah.
what it more of what it says. So this the Southern Poverty Law Center has exposed 1,221 active anti-government and hate groups operating in the United States. All hate groups have beliefs or practices that attack or malign an entire class of people, typically for their immutable characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, there are 488 anti-government groups that they have discovered, and 733 hate groups. Um,
Jeez.
so so there's a breakdown of these. It's so interesting because it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about um the Illuminati, right?
Yeah.
So this is the real life of what it looks like the concept of Illuminati looks like in our country too. Um, I've never heard of these. Um, this isn't even the topic of conversation, but there are 500 anti-government, the ones that we have heard of, and this is where I get scared. Uh, so we know the Ku Klux Klan, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
The KKK has 18 active groups that they've noticed. The
Okay.
neo-Nazi party has 54.
Yeah, there are a lot of neo-Nazis,
The white
unfortunately.
nationalists have 98. And then the anti someone for any reason, the
What?
anti-LGBTQ is the highest anti one on this map. And
Oh, there are different antis. Okay,
there are
okay.
65 active groups across the country that they have discovered.
Uh-huh.
And then there are 295, and this is massive to me. There are 295 organized groups of just general hate.
Oh my God. Not not all-encompassing miscellaneous hate.
No, just general hate. And um, on the back of this map, it talks about how the January so people like myself, I'll put myself into this.
Yeah,
What happened on January 6th was seemed like it came out of nowhere.
for you.
For me, for me,
Yes.
I was so like, what is
Out of left
happening right now?
field, like what
Right.
the fuck?
What is
Yeah.
happening right now? And blatantly so wrong, right? Like there was no
Yeah.
question. There was no, and because I in my brain I knew that there were things, and I knew that there were dum-dums. Like we've dealt with them on the major highways by us, like the dum-dums during all of Trump administration, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I never in a million years would have expected something that organized and large to happen at that level.
Yeah,
Does
considering the people that are in that said group that
correct.
did it. Yeah.
That I I would not have anticipated or did not expect something like that to happen. Um, but here's the thing that sucks. And this is something that this group follows up with. And this is what the back of this map says. In the years since January 6th insurrection, and this is something that we have talked about being the problem with the fact that this happened, an empowered hard right movement has worked feverishly to undermine democracy. Followers and supporters of this movement had converged around a willingness to engage in political violence, inflict harm, and deny legally established rights. And many elected officials have embraced increasingly violent rhetoric and wondered aloud whether violence might become a political necessity. And it lists off 5 different ways that this is being allowed and 3 different instances of things that have happened where these groups have started
Mm-hmm.
to make themselves known
Okay.
without fear of
Of repercussions or anything?
consequence. And it's very, I think this goes hands in hand with what we were just talking about with the movie Django, because this is the type of shit that was happening then, right? In the setting of the time of when Django was there, it was in a different setting, right? It was
Yeah,
more of
yeah.
like the people who were on the right side of history were trying to put history in the right side of history.
Right, right, right.
What's happening now is that because we're aiming towards balancing out the right side of history, the people who are on the wrong side of history are trying to do what was done then. And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I just listened to an interview with Anderson Cooper, and he's been all over the world talking to people in all of these countries about all of these major things, and most countries that are like at war with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something that I think truly echoes with the fact that all of this crap just came in my mail. People who are fighting for this, who are starting to who think that violence is the answer and starting a war about being on the wrong side of fucking history is the answer, don't realize what it actually looks like for your country to be at war. And if they could understand what, and this is from Anderson Cooper's perspective, if they could understand what it really looks like to have your country be at war and what devastation that brings on for everybody, these fucking assholes would not be doing
Doing
this
this.
shit.
Well, I mean, yes. But also they're only thinking about themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
But the perspective of that,
Mm-hmm.
I, right. Like
Like,
they're not thinking about anything else but the fact that they're angry
and
and
their freedoms are
they're
being compromised.
they're feeling small and their needs and wants aren't being put first, even though they have been since the dawn of human existence. Like now it's not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to live in this.
I don't think
Like no
anyone
one
in their
wants
right
to live in
mind.
this.
Yes, correct.
But
It,
this is still the fucking reality we have here. And
yeah.
if we come back to the argument, and this is where I go back to the question of, is democracy really worth it? Because if we go back to the argument of, you can't, if we're truly fighting for everyone to have their rights and their freedoms, we can't walk too far down either side of the line, because in a true free country of democracy, these people can do whatever the fuck they want. Unless there are like how many rules and how many rights and how many laws can we actually put in place that don't end up leading too far to one side, even though any normal fucking functioning person who understood would want that. If we're truly fighting to have democracy stand and have freedom stand, we need to make space for this.
Yeah.
Do you see the
Yeah.
existential crisis I'm having?
It's just like, yeah, and like obviously we don't want this to happen for the people that have their minds correct. I would hope. So it's like we do need the laws. Like there is some government oversight that needs to be happening.
But
And I
how do
don't
you
uh-huh.
we need to we're if we're going to say it, we need to be okay with the fact that it can't be democracy anymore then. If we have this many people in our country who think that who truly, and they're not wrong, who believe they have the right to do all of these things, especially because our government is making space for it, and we can say that that's okay in the honor of saying that that's democratic, right? That's the whole point of democracy, and that's the whole point of true freedom. Is that really what we want then?
Well, isn't our government technically a republic democracy, which is a whole different situation?
I mean, yes,
That's a loophole that I am pulling
but
right now. But I also feel
even the
like,
paperwork they sent me says democracy. It doesn't say anything about the
yeah, whatever, the republic,
details
the
of that.
democracy, whatever.
Go
But
ahead, keep going.
also, like, what loophole are they using that they're all of a sudden this is okay? Is like the freedom of religion
No, the fact that all of these government officials are turning their
are okay with
heads.
it? Yeah.
And so like some are like or so
Or
in
freedom of
support of it.
speech. Yeah,
Right.
it's like, yeah.
So here are some of the things that they say. Words matter, especially from our leaders. The rise of these extremists has a real world consequence that people are not addressing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we're seeing more demonstrated use of acceptance for far right things, it suggests that extremist ideas are operating more mainstream now. Like people can openly talk about being an asshole.
Yeah, with no repercussions.
Disinformation and conspiracy theories are galvanizing attacks on democracy and government institution. This comes literally back to what we talked about with the Illuminati. Like, so I guess I can. Okay, so here's where, and I'm happy that I looked at this. Here's where, if true democracy, if true freedom is trying to keep the balance between the two, right? And all of these groups, these anti-government and these hate groups are coming up because they're extremely far on one side of that, then we have to pull back to at least having the balance. But nonetheless, and where we have to shrink the circle, not
Yeah.
eliminate the circle.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that people have the beliefs that are leading them to push the circle out on that side is still not wrong. And that's the problem that I can't rest with.
It's still not wrong. Wait, say that again.
In a true,
What's
okay, wait.
still not wrong?
Are you ready? I'm gonna
Oh,
draw.
like are
I'm
you
gonna
talking about
fucking draw right now. Wait, what did you say?
like still not wrong in a democracy
In a
setting?
true democratic setting,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Like, right.
She's drawing everyone.
My life changed when this veteran came to talk about what freedom really means because I understand this now, right? So, meow, 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 meow. Oh God. Okay. Deal with me in how ridiculous this is going to look, right? This looks like the center of a peach. Like if you cut open a peach, this is what we're dealing with. Okay. So the line, right? The line that we have of freedom, right?
Yeah.
The balance is here and true democracy lives in the center, right?
Yeah.
Like this
Okay.
little
Yep.
circle, right? And we're
Yep.
constantly either on either side. The problem is though that you can exist on either side of this line, right? We could be in the center and still have people who I believe in white supremacy, right? Versus people who don't believe in white
I
supremacy.
will say no one clip that in a wrong situation.
Oh my God, please don't take that as that is not a soundbite of me saying that I believe in. You are totally right though. But people could right?
Yeah.
People still need to exist in here. And true democracy, true sense of freedom is that the bubble stays the same size on both sides,
Okay. Yeah.
right? But we
Okay.
all just exist in here and there's a balance of us just living together in that.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
problem that we're facing now is that the fuckers on this side are
Yeah.
pushing their
Out.
beliefs and their actions to be able to support their actions out farther,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
becoming more radicalized and active and
Mm-hmm.
not staying inside the nice little bubble. So the problem with having a democracy, the problem with the true freedom is that those fuckers will always exist.
Yeah. It's just
And
how
we
do
have to
I
spend the rest of our existence
Yeah.
figuring out how to keep this in balance.
Right. And that's the struggle that we're having right now. Correct. I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're at.
I
Uh,
still circle back to my question, is it worth it then?
uh,
You know what
I
I mean?
don't
I don't expect us to
yeah.
have an answer, and I don't have an answer, but it is this brings us to the whole paradox of like if we're really going to travel down the existential crisis hole, like this is the paradox of being human, is that there's always going, this is where we get the story of good and evil, this is where we get the story of right and wrong. We are the people who make things right and wrong, and I don't care. From my perspective, I don't give a shit where you stand. It's wrong for you to believe in white
Yeah.
supremacy.
Right.
But if
Right.
we live in a world where we have true democratic freedom, we can't say one thing is right and one thing is wrong and not allow both to exist.
Right.
Are you seeing where I'm at right now?
Yeah. It's like how do we just like all just kumbaya fucking
Why
deal with
can't we
each
all just
other?
fucking get along, you guys? Like that. But this is so our I don't think, I mean, yay, this position, because I think it is something that has to be addressed because if people are organizing to actively draw harm onto others and overturn our government and do things that are so radical and just not thought through and just short-sighted and ignorant and stupid, we do need something to come back at that, right? Because they're pushing the envelope on their side.
Hmm.
But it's like when you get, this is a fucking awful analogy, but it's like when you get a hernia. If you push back too hard on the disc that's sticking out, it comes out in another direction.
Ew.
And
Ew.
we are
Yeah.
going to, in order to keep a balance of true democracy, these are the types of fights that American society and American government is going to experience for the duration. We just happen to be living in one of those herniations right now. I don't know where to go with that information, and I don't know how you're feeling, listeners, about this, but this is why. So getting this in the mail and listening to all of the things that I've been listening to about it, it brings up all of these questions about what are we really supposed to do? What do we really do?
I'm going back to fucking original sin episode. Just be nice.
And
That's all God wants, really. Is y'all just need to be nice to each other.
the
Shit.
lessons and I was listening to Will Arnett
Hmm.
and Jason Bateman have a conversation on Smartless, and they were joking about people who have a sticker that says coexist on their car. And I'm
Yeah.
somebody who has a sticker
You have that
coexist on
same
my
sticker.
car.
Yeah.
And it is for reasons like this that I have that sticker. But like, if you don't believe in that, like I am that. Like, where's my political stance? That. Like, that's my fucking political stance.
Just coexist.
Coexist. Because we're going to get to a point I can see how in a lot of ways the setting of the movie Django 2 years before the Civil War can parallel to a lot of the distress and unrest that we are currently experiencing in our country.
Okay. Sure.
And that is the way I'm full circling this
Okay. All right.
entire conversation. And there's obviously, this is me pulling out very far from like the
Hmm.
centered character of Django in the story, but the overall structure of the society and the amount of arrests in the society and the exploitation of people and the the violence and the hatred and the fear and the underground happenings. We're experiencing that all over again right now. And my biggest hope is that we are emotionally intelligent and awake and aware enough to not repeat history.
We'll just have to see. I'm like a very slim optimist now with the world as it is, so we'll
I'm
see.
so sorry.
Oh, it's not your fault.
I'm sure I don't help in moving it in the other direction
Eh.
at all.
No, it's okay. But there are people out there, there are nonprofits out there that are doing the work, and the hope is that they're doing enough that it
Yeah.
curbs
And I'm
all
excited to
that.
sign these freaking petitions. I'm sad that they sent them to my parents' house because they sent them back in January, and I hope that I can still do something. But
Yeah.
so if you have any time and you're curious to look into the Southern Poverty Law Center from the research that Maria and I were doing, their website is splcenter.org. And they are working on a lot of fronts in fighting hate and educating people on justice and helping to support justice around the areas of extremists like we discussed today, rights for kids, criminal justice reform, LGBTQ rights, immigrant justice, even voting rights, and doing a lot on the forefronts. And I'm very excited to get to know them better and figure out ways that I can get involved aside from this petition. But if you have a second and you're curious, I would definitely encourage people to take a look at them.
Yeah, and go find any other nonprofits that you think they also need help with all this stuff.
And
Any,
maybe
any,
take a look at their hate map and see if you live anywhere where there's a lot of it.
yeah, and just be aware and
It
just be
was
cautious.
very interesting.
That's all. Okay. All right, everyone has some research to do.
Go give a little more love into the country. We clearly need it.
All right, bye.